This is KTN News.
There has never been a man or a woman, not me, not Bill, nobody, more qualified than Hillary Clinton to serve as President of the United States of America.
An all-star-studded event as Democratic Party heavyweights rally support for their nominee, Hillary Clinton. An Amnesty International report accuses President Kiir's government of perpetuating war crimes. Burning concerns by Kenya's education stakeholders over discipline and security in schools.
A very good morning to you. Many thanks for joining us on Worldview here on KTN News on this 28th day of July 2016. Always a pleasure to have you tuned in. And what we are putting into focus this morning, of course, the all-star-studded event at the Democratic Convention. And we will be speaking to Nakia White, who is a Democratic Party strategist. Let's just take a look at the intrigues in the American politics. We put our focus on that. My name is Akisa Ondera. I will be taking you through the program. Well, we begin from Philadelphia, the venue of the ongoing Democratic Convention, where President Barack Obama has painted an optimistic picture of America's future in a speech aimed at giving full-hearted support to Hillary Clinton to help her defeat Republican rival Donald Trump and become the first woman elected U.S. President. Barack Obama offered an alternative to businessman Trump's vision of the United States as being under siege from illegal immigrants and terrorism and losing its way in the world. The Democratic president laid out what he said were a series of advances during his 2 terms in office, such as recovery from economic recession, the Obamacare healthcare reform, and the 2011 killing of Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden.
There has never been a man or a woman, not me, not Bill, nobody, more qualified than Hillary Clinton to serve as President of the United States of America. I see Americans of every party, every background, every faith who believe that we are stronger together. Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know. And there is only one candidate in this race who believes in that future, has devoted her life to that future, a mother and a grandmother who would do anything to help our children thrive. A leader with real plans to break down barriers and blast through glass ceilings and widen the circle of opportunity to every single American, the next president of the United States, Hillary Clinton.
Democratic vice presidential nominee U.S. Senator Tim Kaine laid into Republican candidate Donald Trump, describing the billionaire as a one-man wrecking crew who cannot be trusted with America's future. Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton chose Kaine of Virginia as her running mate last week, opting for a partner at the November 8th election who has wide experience in public service to draw a contrast with Trump, who has never been elected to office. And on his part, U.S. President Joe Biden stressed that there are serious risks of electing Donald Trump as the president of the United States. Biden was one of the many Democrats who touted their candidate, former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, as far better suited than Trump to keep the country safe.
Can be summed up in a phrase I suspect he's most proud of having made famous: you're fired. I mean, really, I'm not joking. Think about that. Think about that. Think about everything you learned as a child, no matter where you were raised. How can there be pleasure in saying you're fired? He's trying to tell us he cares about the middle class. Give me a break. That's a bunch of malarkey. This guy doesn't have a clue about the middle class. Not a clue.
Well, and KTN News is also in the middle of where the action is in Philadelphia. Our special correspondent Alex Chemwade is there and now joins us via phone from Philadelphia with an update on that particular event that is the Democratic Convention. Many thanks for joining us on Worldview, Alex Chemwade. And just to sum it up for us, how was this particular night? All right, still trying to get a hold of Alex Chemwade. He is in Philadelphia, our special correspondent. He'll be joining us later on just to give us a summation of that particular night of stars, given their speeches, of course, in favor of Hillary Clinton. But elsewhere, Republican Donald Trump said that his Democratic rival for the presidency, Hillary Clinton, will set women back as the Democrats hail her at their national convention as someone who is breaking new ground by becoming the first female nominee for a major political party. Speaking to supporters in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Trump said he was in favor of a woman becoming president, but just not Clinton.
Be calling, right? They'll call and they'll talk and they'll say, you know, this and that, and they'll say, Madam President. Oh, I don't want to hear that. I do want to hear it eventually, because I want to see a woman become president, but it can't be her. She's a disaster. She's a disaster. She'll set you back a long way, women, if that happens. It'll be a long way before it happens again. You better be careful what you wish for. Their new name, which is the joke of all time, is that Crooked Hillary is a change maker. Do you see, change maker? You know, they probably paid $2 million for the guy who came up with that slogan. And I came up with Crooked Hillary all by myself. Zero, no money. But change maker. She's a change maker. So she's been doing this for like 30 years plus, and she's going to be a change maker, right? She's not going to change because the special interests and her lobbyists will never, ever, ever let her change. Believe me, they will never let her change, even if she wanted to, and she doesn't want to.
Well, we've gotten hold of our special correspondent in Philadelphia, Alex Chemwade, who now joins us here on Worldview for a recap on how this particular night at the Democratic Convention went down. Many thanks for joining us on Worldview. Alex, what do you have for us?
Akisa, of course, the highlight today was President Barack Obama's speech. And he sought to put on table his legacy, using his legacy to boost Hillary Clinton's campaign, touching on domestic issues as well as his foreign policy. Beginning with the domestic issues, he said that during his 2 terms, America has seen progress in terms of job creation. He touched on the Obamacare, universal health care for everyone in the U.S. On international issues, he touched on, his policies on Cuba, a new chapter in Cuba, closing of nuclear plants in Iran, and he is very passionate about climate change and clean energy, he said during his term. He was able to rally the world to sign a pact on new energy and mitigating climate change. So that was sort of a legacy speech to rally Americans around the candidature of Hillary Clinton, sort of saying this is a continuation. Elect Hillary Clinton, and you'll be, continuing to benefit from the policies that my administration has put in place. And of course, earlier speakers also gave the same message of hope with the running mate, Tim Kaine, saying, with Hillary Clinton, you are having a replica of Obama and a continuation of the Obama legacy. That is what was the highlight in Obama's speech there.
Of course, apart from Obama, we also have Joe Biden speaking there, and we had Bloomberg as well. What are some of the things we could pick out from these speeches that are expected to go a long way in helping out the Hillary Clinton campaign? Alex.
Of course, Bloomberg, being a business person, politician come business person, this comes in to give it the touch of the business community in relation to countering Donald Trump, who has no experience in a political office, but his experience is in the business sector. And sort of to say, I mean, he has nothing to offer. We business people are rallying behind Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden, of course, saying Hillary Clinton has had the experience of the Oval Office, all the key decisions, tough decisions that have been made in the past when she was Secretary of State, of course, and during the implementation of difficult programs like the Obama healthcare program. She was there, and she has what it takes to continue that legacy.
Alex, we had issues on the emails and, of course, a faction of the Democrats who were, if I could say, Bernie Sanders loyalists, saying that Hillary Clinton was pretty much selected and not elected. Did this in any way dampen the mood at the convention, these issues?
Of course, emotions were high when it came to that issue, which has, taken a new twist. You've seen the, accusations and counter-accusations regarding the role of Russia, with the Democrats now telling Americans, you see, Donald Trump is working with the Russian leaders to undermine America. But going back to what happened in the party, then it was an issue that brought divisions with Sanders supporters picking it up as an issue to say, you see here, there was something wrong with the nomination. But with Sanders rallying his supporters behind Hillary, then that could, heal the party. Emotions are likely to come down eventually, depending on how they begin their messaging, message of, saying, yes, it's what's under the bridge, but we'll keep pushing for reforms in the party. I was speaking to some of the supporters of Sanders. They were saying they will, of course, here, when you are a Democrat, you are a Democrat. When you are a Republican, you are a Republican. The other option would be being independent. But they are saying they are remaining in the party. Their push was to strengthen the party and make sure that this doesn't happen again. But it will now evolve. It will go beyond the supporters of Sanders and become a campaign issue between Hillary and Trump, Akisa.
So going forward, what do we expect from that particular camp, of course, of the Democrats?
Of course, then you are likely not to hear the supporters of Sanders being vocal out there, because this was their forum. They held demonstrations on the margins of the convention here. But then beyond the convention, it's unlikely that you will see that momentum continuing outside there. The shift will be now the campaign, the real now battle between Trump and Hillary. If there are any, underlying voices that are anti-Hillary Clinton, they are likely not to be so pronounced the way we saw at the convention, because that's the forum they had. They had all the publicity with the media around there. And just to mention that, election is just, it's about 4 months from now. That is on November 8th. So issues are likely to begin evolving and changing. We are likely to see both camps now sitting down and looking at their weaknesses, the gains and the weaknesses from the conventions, because conventions are key forums where they gauge and they do a scorecard and say, hey, where are we headed? How far are we gone? What are our weaknesses and how can we rectify them? And of course, tonight, of course, is the speech by Hillary Clinton, who will be now accepting that nomination. So from her speech, we'll be getting a direction where she's headed and how she hopes to shape her campaign. Then, of course, the campaign management team, you are likely to see a sort of reorganization in the campaign management teams moving forward towards the election. And as another thing on the sideline is that Kenyan leaders who are here are still here. They've witnessed this occasion. One thing they say they've picked from this event is that here people own parties, unlike in Kenya where ordinary people look forward to getting money from their leaders, from their politicians. Yeah. Here, it's a movement where you have people volunteering, donating, and coming to forums like this. They come themselves. They believe in something. You are a Democrat, you are a Democrat. You are a Republican, you are a Republican. But again, they are challenged that it's the same Kenyan leaders who, so to speak, teach Kenyans bad manners. So it's something that we'll be watching to see, can they really implement when they go back to their country, Akisa?
Of course, and as you mentioned Kenyan leaders, I'm sure you've managed to speak to a number of them. What are some of the things they say they are able to carry home? In terms, of course, on ideologies.
One, of course, is that what we've spoken about in terms of funding and ownership of the party. And then accountability. Here, political parties are run like, huge organizations with clear rules, transparency. In the context of the rule of law, you will not just joke with the people's money, public funds, and it really impacts negatively on you as a leader, depending on how you run a party or how, if you're an official or a candidate, how you behave in that party. The second thing is the role of the media. Of course, contrary to what we know in Kenya, here media can take sides, of course, depending on what they believe in. They can campaign for a candidate saying, we believe this candidate is the best for the country because of ABCD. But in Kenya, that is still an issue that cannot be practiced in Kenya. You wouldn't find easily a media house taking sides with a particular party or a particular candidate. Some of the leaders who came here from Kenya, they're saying that is a lesson they wouldn't like to pick from here, Akisa.
All right, thank you very much for that, Alex. Thank you very much for joining us here on Worldview. Alex Chomwada is our special correspondent joining us all the way from Philadelphia, where the Democratic Convention is ongoing. Well, and there was no shortage of star power in the third day of the Democratic Party Convention. Former mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, who was elected as a Republican, endorsed Hillary Clinton at the Democratic Convention, saying that Donald Trump is a risky, reckless, and radical choice.
There are times when I disagree with Hillary Clinton, but let me tell you, whatever our disagreements may be, I've come here to say we must put them aside for the good of our country. And we must unite around the candidate who can defeat a dangerous demagogue. Today, as an independent and an entrepreneur and a former mayor, I believe we need a president who is a problem solver, not a bomb thrower. Someone who can bring members of Congress together to get big things done. And I know Hillary can do that because I saw it firsthand.
All right, now into our discussion here on Worldview, and joining me in studio is Nakia White, a political strategist with the Democrats, or the Democratic Party. She's worked with Cory Booker, a well-known politician as well, almost tipped to be Hillary Clinton's running mate.
That's right.
But thank you very much, Nakia, for coming in.
Thank you for
really
having me.
Appreciate. And of course, when we say Cory Booker, and we say this is the person who was working hand in hand with him, one question comes in mind. How was it working with him?
Amazing. Cory Booker, what you saw in the DNC speech is exactly who he is. He's passionate, he's thorough, he's smart, he thinks about the people. So listen, working with him was probably one of the best experiences in my career. So I was really, really happy to have that.
What are some of the things you could pick out that is different about him that you wouldn't see in the usual politicians?
I think he's young. First of all, he's progressive, he's African-American, and he is a rising star. So I think all of those things, right? He really does believe in everything that he says, yeah. And he stands by his conviction. I mean, while other politicians do the same thing, I think what's really, really unique about Cory is that people really can feel his passion, and it's absolutely contagious.
He was believed to have been, would have been a running mate to Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
That was what he was among those who would have been considered. Where do you think he missed out on this?
Well, I think, listen, Hillary Clinton was the senator of New York, yeah. The U.S. senator for New York, and he is the senator for New Jersey. And so when you're looking at plurality, you can't have both people kind of in the same region of the country. So which is why she picked Kaine, and I think Kaine is a really good choice, actually. He's very moderate. So,
yes.
Yeah.
First part of our bulletin was all about the speeches that we saw at the convention, and you've worked with these people. You know the intrigues inside this particular party. Would you describe this particular convention, with all the stars we've seen making the speeches, would you describe it as a success?
I think it is a success. I think the interesting thing is when it initially started, Julian Assange released emails, or leaked emails from the DNC, kind of, I guess, undermining the process. So I think that marred kind of the opening session of the DNC. But what we're seeing now is a lot of unity and a lot of talk about coming together and making it a United States. So I think the really positive things that are coming out of it, we'll just see post-convention if Hillary numbers goes up, because right now her numbers are not high. Yes. In fact, Trump's numbers are a little bit higher than hers in terms of the polls, with a variance of about 2.5%. So.
Do we expect, with the kind of endorsements that Hillary Clinton has gotten, we've seen Obama, we've seen Michelle Obama, we've seen, of course, Kate, the running mate, seen Joe Biden, the husband, yesterday made a very, very passionate speech there. Such a passionate endorsement. Is this expected to turn the numbers around?
I think we'll see post-convention. We don't really know yet. I think Hillary has a battle to fight in terms of really winning the election. There's no way that a seasoned politician who's going up against a new politician, brand new like Donald Trump, should be so close in the poll numbers. So that's a little, it's making me a bit nervous, and certainly other Democrats a bit nervous about that. So we'll see. Again, I think that post-convention we'll be able to see the numbers a little better.
But of course we'll be taking a look at the people who were lined up to speak. We've seen Bloomberg. The other day we saw mothers of children who are Black
Lives Matter, yeah. Sure.
Black Lives Matter, the movement.
Absolutely.
We saw the mothers there. We saw immigrants who have been in the U.S. What exactly does the DNC expect to achieve from lining up this particular faces to somehow vouch for Hillary Clinton?
What they're doing is saying unity. We're all one America. We're all in this together. And that's what really the DNC convention is about. Very different from the RNC convention, was fire and brimstone. Everything is going to hell in a handbasket. So what the Democrats are really bringing to bear is that it is a United States of America, and they do see people that are concerned about immigration, that are concerned about cops killing Black men and boys on the streets, and that veterans matter. So it really was about unity, and that will continue, I'm sure, through tonight, and especially with Hillary's speech.
What do we expect from this particular speech?
I think what you expect is to hear a little bit of policy from her, at least that's what I hope to expect from her. I think you expect for her to kind of rally the troops, acknowledge kind of some of the missteps that the DNC has made, but she's the person to bring them together. She's the person to have, foreign policy conversations, which are really, really important, especially with threats from Russia and threats from North Korea and other parts of the world, including the Middle East. So I think that she'll bring to bear all of those particular points and really say that she's the person to really, really do that.
Well, with this two parties, of course, were pro-Trump and pro-Hillary Clinton taking jabs at each other. We've seen Trump say that he doesn't really mind a woman becoming a U.S. president, but not Clinton, anyone but Clinton. He says that Clinton will take the U.S. some steps back. How do we expect that they will counter such strong sentiments from Trump? And it's not the first time.
Right, no. I think Trump is a firebrand, right? So if you look at Trump is really kind of a character. He is a TV show host, a reality show host. He really likes the spotlight. I think that he'll say anything to kind of get the crowd riled up in terms of saying that historically that America isn't ready, essentially is what he's saying, for a woman president is absolutely ridiculous. 2008, people said America wasn't ready for a black president, and we had a black president for two terms. And he was Kenyan American, and proudly Kenyan American. And so for him to say that he or America's not ready for a woman president, it just really speaks to his misogyny. It really speaks to his sexism and the level of it. And for him to say who should be or shouldn't be president, the fact that he has a platform to say anything is, for me, absolutely ridiculous.
But don't you think this is working for him? He's been riding on this since he showed interest in this particular much coveted seat. Is it not working for him?
I think for a particular segment of the population is working. He could probably win by the majority of vote, but that still doesn't guarantee him the win because he still needs the Electoral College to win. So the fact that Donald Trump is kind of saying this stuff, it really does speak to, unfortunately, in some ways, where America is. One of the reasons that Bernie Sanders was incredibly popular, along with Donald Trump, is because you saw America kind of going away from status quo. So Bernie Sanders was your non-status quo candidate, as was Donald Trump. And the fact that he is now the candidate, the Republican candidate, really does speak to kind of where America's mind is in terms of wanting to kind of break the mold in terms of their political leadership.
Is America ready for a female president?
Absolutely.
Do you think it's going to work out?
I'm nervous, but I think it's close.
Why are you nervous?
Listen, I believe in polls. I believe in data. I believe in numbers. And the data is really, really close. And it's really close. If you look at the election in 2008, when Obama was running against McCain, even around this time, Obama's numbers were pretty significant. They were a lot higher than where Hillary Clinton's numbers are right now.
So, hypothetically speaking, if Bernie Sanders was picked to be Hillary Clinton's running mate, how would this have worked out?
A lot better.
A lot better?
I think so. I think a lot of the support, because when you look at all of the data, a lot of what Bernie Sanders was able to do was to get the youth vote, and that's how Barack Obama won in 2008 as well as 2012. He was able to get the youth vote in the margins from 18 to 24. Those were some of the highest voters in the country. And I think had she picked him for her running mate, I think, though he would not have accepted, let's be clear about that, but had she picked him for his running mate, I think a lot of the kind of agina that we saw leading up to this and in the first days of this probably would have been a little less dampened.
The electoral emails really dampened the mood on the first day of the DNC, and we also saw the Team Trump really ride on this, but it almost looks like it failed. So are we going to see the Trump campaign look for something else to throw jobs at?
I don't know if it failed. I don't know if it failed, right? I think when you look at the polling numbers, and his numbers have risen anywhere between 7 to 10%. I'm not sure if the leak numbers fell. Now, he's not responsible for that. Julian Assange is gladly saying that he's responsible for that and really timed it really well. Julian Assange, of course, from WikiLeaks. But really said he timed it really well because he considers Hillary Clinton a personal enemy of his. And will continue, he says, to kind of leak emails. But I think in the sense for right now it's working. We'll see what Hillary says tonight. Hopefully she's able to speak to the crowd, and the most important thing for politicians at that level is to capture the heart and minds of people that they are supposed to be serving.
So you think the leaked emails hurt her numbers?
I think what the leaked emails did was they questioned the integrity of the DNC.
Yes, definitely.
They questioned whether or not they were undermining the efforts of the Bernie Sanders team. But the great thing about that is that Bernie Sanders is saying, hey, yeah, this was probably not the best thing to do, but we really need to rally under our candidate, our DNC candidate. And because if not, if we have this division, then we are literally giving the election to Donald Trump.
And because of this particular situation, do you think there's need for the reorganization of the campaign management?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you look at the way that the delegates are picked and the democratic process, it is really, really complicated. You can have a 15%, 20%, 30%, and if you have the majority of delegates, you can then go to another group of delegates and negotiate with them to come over to yours. As opposed to the Republican delegation, if you get the majority of the votes, you get the majority of the delegates. So it's really the RNC, the way that they do their delegation process is really, really simple in relation to how the Democrats really pick their delegates. So I think it should be restructured.
How best should this work to her advantage if they are to reorganize the campaign management?
I think they probably won't. They'll do it as we go into the next election. I think for this election is just kind of a note. In terms of the way that things are done, but the whole question was really around how the delegates were picked. For example, the super delegates all said that they would vote for Hillary Clinton at the very beginning, and so that was even before the primary process has started. So there are questions about that, right? So I think that the best way is to do the 51% way of kind of picking your delegates or picking the delegates picking their candidate.
Trump is accused of working with the Russian government to undermine America. Are we expecting the Democrats to seriously ride on this just 4 months into the election?
I think so. I mean, listen, there was a recent article that said that Donald Trump was a Manchurian candidate, and it's really, you kind of have to believe that in some sense, right? Because even the things that he's saying, like the misogynist thing he just said about America not being ready for a woman, right? When you look at things like that, and his poll numbers are still high, or when he says that he can go in the middle of Times Square and shoot someone, and his numbers are still high. I mean, listen, there has to be something to that. And the fact that he is supporting people like Putin, the leader of North Korea, evangelizing in some ways Saddam Hussein, all really questions kind of what he really deems leadership, and especially leadership that will support the Western world.
This general aloofness that Trump presents, the misogynistic person he is, every name he has been called, but the polls continue, the numbers continue to go high for him. What does this say about the people of America, really? I mean, that's the one question everyone is asking. Because Trump was dismissed from the very beginning, we thought, this is just your usual, but see him now, see where he is now. What does it say about the people of America?
I think that's what President Obama beautifully answered last night, is that his rhetoric and his hate is definitely not American and not of America. I think that there is a cohort of Americans who believe that they are losing power, particularly white males, to be honest, that believe that they are losing a sense of power. And when you look at his audience, when you look at the RNC audience, is majority males. There are women there as well, but majority white males who are really kind of, picking up on his rhetoric. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that when you see Hillary Clinton, she has supporters. When you see Trump, he has fans. And I think that the people that are really fans for Trump are these people who really believe that they are losing power, that immigrants are coming over. By the way, there's 100,000 documented Kenyan immigrants in the United States, or more. But they're all afraid about immigrants coming over and really taking jobs and destroying America. So, yeah.
Okay, you're a strategist. You understand the intrigues of probably both parties. We have about 4 months to November the 8th. What do we expect from these two sides now? Now, heading forward.
I think what you expect from Donald Trump, listen, I thought at the very beginning he was going to go moderate. I thought that he was going to kind of become a little softer in his tone.
We all did.
And start to appeal to middle America, and he's not doing that. I think that his tone has remained, unfortunately, the same. I think what you're going to see from Hillary is really her trying to capture Bernie Sanders votes, the younger vote, the Latino, the black vote. I think that's what you're going to see a little bit more of her doing in the next couple of months. And quite honestly, she's going to have to really work hard to get those votes.
For Trump?
She's going to have to work hard to get Bernie Sanders votes.
But for Trump, does he need to tone down?
I think...
Because if he's not toning down and it's working for him, does he really need to?
Trump is a theater actor, right? He's going to do what makes the crowd happy. So if continuing to pander to hate, to misogyny, to being a xenophobe, if that works for his constituency, I think he's going to continue to do that. But if he was smart and he wanted to win, he would become more moderate. But Donald Trump is Donald Trump, so I think he's going to stay right where he is and go hard line and say what he's saying now.
Well, way to finish this meeting. Yes, I will just have to cut it at that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in, Nakia.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Such an interesting conversation. We should have you here again, of course, to just take a look at the intrigues into the elections. It's now going to be Trump versus Hillary Clinton, everything aside. We'll be taking a look at how that goes down. And of course, Nakia White is a Democratic Party strategist. She worked with Cory Booker as well, almost tipped to be the running mate for Hillary Clinton, but did not manage that. But thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, at this point, we will take a short break, but do not go too far. Trixie Ngado is coming in next to help us take a look at some of the stories that made it to the headlines in the international papers. Do not go too far.
This is KTN News.
The University of Nairobi School of Business welcomes you to the 7th Annual iBoomer Conference on the 28th and 29th of July 2016. The conference will take place at the serene Lower Kabete campus. The conference theme is Leveraging on Technology and Expanding the Frontiers of Business. Come and interact with local and international participants in academia and industry. This conference will be aired live on KTN on the 28th of July 2016, starting from 10 a.m. For inquiries, please contact the Secretariat on 0720 544 705.
This is KTN News.
Let's take a look at our top story of this hour. President Barack Obama has painted an optimistic picture of America's future in his speech aimed at giving full-hearted support to Hillary Clinton to help her defeat Republican rival Donald Trump and become the first woman elected U.S. president. Obama offered an alternative to businessman Trump's vision of the United States as being under siege with illegal immigrants and terrorism and losing its way in the world. The Democratic president laid out what he said were a series of advances during his 2 terms in office, such as recovery from economic recession, the Obamacare healthcare reform, and the 2011 killing of al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. Other luminaries who supported Clinton on the 3rd day of the convention include Vice President Joe Biden. Welcome back. You are watching Worldview. Trix Ngado just joined me here, and she's going to help us take a look at some of the stories that made it to the headlines in the international press. Good morning, Trix.
Good morning, Akisa. I see you've got the memo, the clothing memo today.
You know, you know.
So it's all about the convention, the Democratic Convention, which is making more headlines, more positive headlines, as opposed to the Republican headlines. So we're going to take a look at some of the papers. We'll start off with this U.S. paper, which is the New York Times. Right. And then if you could scroll down, we're having Obama passes baton of hope to Clinton. So you remember Obama's message during his campaign in both elections was that of hope, of course, just promising the members of the United States, the citizens of the United States,
looks like
a better country.
Same strategy being used here.
Same strategy, same message, and of course Hillary Clinton is seen as someone who's going to take over from some of the policies that Obama had been using in his tenure as president, and just moving on with them, making them better, for example, healthcare and things like that. So we're having the headline that says President labels Trump a threat to American values. So some of the very deep-seated values in the American population, some ways that are seen to be very American. Trump has been going against them. America is seen as a land of hope, a land of opportunity. Trump has been saying he does not want immigrants, illegal immigrants, people from Mexico and countries in Asia. So this is just some of the things that Obama was highlighting, just to show some of the Americans who are watching at home that this is why you should not vote for Trump, but vote for Clinton in that respect. And then, of course, we're having more on, I think Obama took the day in terms of the speeches. He's one of the biggest winners, given what he said, and he was one of the most anticipated speakers at that convention. So here we are having a headline that says President Obama and the Long March, taking a long view in his convention speech, just taking a look at some of the things he stressed in his speech and the important things that his look into history. He's talking about his work, comparing his time against Hillary Clinton during the campaign, and saying this woman did not quit. He was worn out, but Hillary Clinton would not just quit. And actually, it surprised her that he actually asked her to join him in the campaign and become his Secretary of State, because it was such a huge and strong rivalry.
Yeah, I think it was a surprise to many people,
but he recognized the values in this woman, despite being his rival, and this is why he's also saying that he is going to endorse her for president. We'll move on to some other paper. I think, though,
this is definitely among the biggest headlines we have here.
But the Times, which is a UK paper, of course, is running with this paper. Here we're having a beautiful picture, that beautiful moment between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, where they hugged, waved to the crowd. It was an intimate moment right there. I would call it that, actually. So you're having the headline for this photo up as "Put your hope in Hillary Clinton," says Obama. The same message that he was actually saying and giving in his speech, a general theme to his speech at the convention. And then here we're taking a look at Theresa May. So Theresa May has demanded a divorce tailor-made for Britain. So the divorce, of course, is not a literal divorce from her husband, but a divorce of Britain from the EU. But she's saying that she wants it to be something that is good for Britain. Of course, she's the Prime Minister right now, so she's going to look at the best interests of Britain. And then we're going to take a look at a story on that paper has been running for quite a while on that paper. There's a way that doctors doctors can now identify the early signs of Alzheimer's, which has been a huge disease. Of course, they're taking a look at some of the nerve endings in the eye. Some, if they're worn out early, it's an indicator that there's a problem in the brain. So that's a scientific story. It rarely makes it to the headlines, but that's what the UK Times is taking a look at. And then you're having here an interesting headline that says the audacity of hope.
It's hope everywhere,
They're daring to hope, you know, and Obama has been asking them to hope. And of course, that is what the headline is. This is a UK paper. The Huffington Post is very leftist in its view. Of course, it usually paints the Democrats in a very, very positive light. So I was actually expecting it.
Yeah, it's not a surprise.
It's not a surprise. But of course, it is true that Obama was carrying this message of hope for Americans.
It's worked for him.
It has worked for him, and it's going to give Clinton a lot of mileage. This is a huge endorsement, even though he endorsed him earlier, but it's really positive that he's coming out and speaking to Americans on her behalf. Then we're having Bloomberg questions Trump's sanity. Can you imagine?
Everyone has.
They were not holding back on that one. So he's questioning and you know, when no one wants to be led by a madman, given that he's a prominent person, calling Trump a madman, of course, it's something that people are going to take a look at.
But the problem is this madman has numbers. So.
He has numbers, and there are people who believe what he's saying because he's playing to the fears of Americans, and which are on some level very legitimate fears. Then we're having here the Mail Online that says, meet the smarties. They're the scariest bright kids vying to be UK's top brain box, egged on by one mother who has given up work to push her daughter and parents who warn their children of failure. So this is some of the very smart kids in the UK, of course, having various ingenuities in various areas. So you can take a look at this article, something fresh, something away from politics, away from
breath of fresh air.
Normal entertainment news about who's dating who. So the Mail Online today is having a very interesting headline. So we can take a look at the next paper, which is The Guardian, and this moment here is still
my awe moment.
The awe moment is still the headline photo, which is a beautiful one with the background, with the angle. And of course, it is a very genuine moment. Nothing fake there. If you take a look at the video footage of that moment, really, really, truly believable in the affection between these two former rivals. Then we're having the headline here: Obama warns of homegrown demagogues. Who, of course, we're thinking about Donald Trump when we talk about these homegrown demagogues. And of course, we had Bloomberg also referring to Trump as a demagogue. So that's a very interesting one. Then we're having the China Daily.
Okay,
so
quickly, let's finish up with this. Yes.
Yeah, this is not very interesting pictures. Different headlines take center stage on this paper. So if you want to know what's happening on different places, and of course it also has African stories, you can take a look at China Daily to get more on what's happening across the world.
All right, thank you very much, Trix, for that. Those are your headlines on the international papers. Now you know. But away from that, a reporter by Amnesty International has exposed new details of the horrors civilian deaths in South Sudan, allegedly at the hands of government forces and allied militia, even after the signing of the peace deal between President Salva Kiir and rebel leader Riek Machar. Trix Ngado reports.
The report, dubbed "We Are Still Running: War Crimes in Leer, South Sudan," details how the South Sudanese government forces and allied militia hunted and killed civilians, raped and abducted women, stole cattle and torched villages in opposition strongholds in Leer County, Unity State between August and December 2015. These atrocities were meant to have been halted by the peace deal between Kiir and Machar's warring factions. The emerging details now point to a theoretical agreement as civilians bore the brunt of a brutal war. The South Sudanese government has, however, maintained that it is determined to work towards the realization of peace.
But as a country, we are talking about the general security for the country, not an individual. But for now, Dr. Riek Machar is still in hideout. But we will go ahead as a government to implement the peace agreement with Taban Dengai, the new first vice president of the republic.
Even with the removal of Riek Machar from his opposition by Kiir, a move perceived as a threat to the peace process.
It is our understanding that is a spokesperson said that I think the removal of Dr. Riek Machar may result into an imminent new war in the country. Should that happen, then the government will be forced to deal with the forces of Dr. Riek Machar. And that is in the interest of peace for the country and the security.
According to the document, violence was meted out on individuals and entire villages by government forces and allied militia in blatant violation of the August 2015 peace agreement between President Salva Kiir and his deputy Riek Machar. Lear is Machar's home county. The organization interviewed a total of 71 respondents who recounted men and women shot dead as they fled their attackers and other executed at point-blank range. They also described how children and the elderly were burnt alive in their homes. Back in 2016, Amnesty International released details of deliberate suffocation of more than 60 men and boys in shipping containers in Lear Unity State in October 2015 and called for an end to the unlawful killing by armed forces. Since the beginning of the civil war, thousands of people have been killed and entire towns and villages left in ruins. More than 2.3 million Sudanese civilians have fled their homes, with some 1.7 million internally displaced and another 600,000 living in neighboring countries as refugees. Trix Ingado, KTN News, Nairobi.
Now, Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe has threatened to punish those war veterans who last week said they were withdrawing their backing for him at a rally of his ZANU-PF party supporters and the veterans who remain loyal to him. Mugabe also urged the veterans to choose new leaders. He blamed the West for splits in the Veterans Association. The association, one of Mugabe's key backers, last week accused him of dictatorial tendencies. In a statement, it also blamed the 92-year-old president for the rapidly deteriorating economic situation in the country.
This is me, and my people will have me for yet some time, a long time. And those outside who don't like me, I say, well, that's your own concern. I say, I don't mind it. Foreign embassies in the country that are interfering with our politics, intervening although they're doing it privately, clandestinely. I want to warn them to desist from it. We know how to deal with our enemies who have been trying all along to bring about regime change in the country. We have the means to defend and protect our hard-won freedom.
Hundreds of thousands of people lined the streets of the Congolese capital Kinshasa to welcome home opposition leader Etienne Tshisekedi after a nearly 2-year stay overseas for medical treatment. Tshisekedi's return comes at a crucial moment in the DRC as a near-certain delay to a presidential election slated for November risks triggering violence in the chronically unstable Central African nation. President Joseph Kabila has been in power, since 2001. And is required by term limits to step down this year, but opponents accuse him of delaying the November 27th poll to cling to power. Kabila's opponents hope that Tshisekedi's return can rally people to the streets after opposition protests over the last year failed to attract large turnouts. Some supporters carried banners with Tshisekedi's picture calling him President of the Republic. He is scheduled to speak at an opposition rally on Sunday. All right, that's all we had, Landa, for you on Worldview. Many thanks for joining us. Up next, Betty Kialo comes in with News Center with all the updates on what is happening in the country and beyond. My name is Akisa Wandera. See you at 1 p.m. for News Desk. I leave you with the country facts of Malawi.
KTN News. Get the whole story.
For every keen golfer, finding the perfect swing is the holy grail. And it's no different for wood ball enthusiasts, playing the game which has been termed as cheap golf. The sport was invented in Taiwan in 1990 by a golfer who found his preferred game too expensive to play and needed a sport that was similar.
Now this gate is fixed into the ground, and the successful player is the one who strikes that ball, and it goes through the gate.
The sport is played using a mallet and ball, all made from wood. Mahogany trees produce the best material to produce the equipments. A full kit containing a mallet, ball and gates goes for about $150. In Africa, the sport was introduced in Uganda 10 years ago. This East African nation became the first country on the continent to start playing it. It is, however, Lilian Zawede who made the Pearl of Africa a success story in the outside world.
When I became Uganda's top best player, the USPA best player of the year, I was like, yes, I really feel I can make it. And actually many things have been coming along the way, and the game has been developing. I've gained a lot of skills. I've played at local and international. And the first time I played in international, we won a bronze medal at World University Games in Munyonyo.
Each team can register from 4 and up to 8 players, including the captain for the game. 4 to 6 of them can compete in the game, and the best 4 individual scores will be counted as the team result. The sport can be played in grass, sand, or indoors. In 2010, Uganda won her first international medal after finishing 3rd overall at the World University Woodball Championship held in the country. Currently, there are over 1,000 players with over 23 clubs playing the sport in Uganda.
Africa, the developments are just beginning. Actually, they're just starting. But you find that countries like Kenya play the sport, Malawi plays the sport, South Africa plays the sport. But when you look at its development, of course, it's not yet there. But in Uganda, of course, we have taken a number of milestones to consider. We look at things like having an annual calendar that runs consistently without missing an event.
Paul Mark Kayongo is a pioneer of the sport and one of the vice presidents of the International Woodball Federation in charge of Africa.
We are encouraged by the rate at which the sport is spreading, because as I speak now, we see schools, we see universities, we see clubs, we see corporates, and the key corporates. So this means that there must be something special about this sport.
Back to the course, Zawede was graded Africa's best lady for the second year running after 2014 rankings were released by the International Woodball Federation. With a total of 97.9 points from her 5 international outings, the 29-year-old is now ranked 7th in the world. Zawede plays for Ndeje University Woodball Club.
My target is being world is #1 this year, at least not to miss the top 3 in the world.
Branded Uganda's Seed 1, Zawede is the only African in the top 30 across both genders. The sport is entirely dominated by Asian players from